BingX, a trusted global crypto exchange. Trade spot, futures, or copy top traders easily. Sign up via the link or referral code to get 30 USDT instantly, plus up to 1,500 USDT in bonuses for verification, deposit, and trading.
Israel's Rakefet facility, a subterranean complex revived from disuse, is reportedly holding dozens of Palestinians from Gaza in conditions described as severely deprived and isolated, with detainees never seeing daylight. Lawyers representing some of these individuals report that they are denied adequate food and are completely cut off from news of their families or the outside world. Among those held are at least 2 civilians, a nurse and a young food seller, who, according to the Public Committee Against Torture in Israel, PCATI, have been detained without charge or trial since January. These men have detailed experiencing regular beatings and violence consistent with documented torture practices in other Israeli detention centers. Rakefet, originally opened in the early 1980s for extremely dangerous organized crime figures and subsequently closed due to its inhumane conditions, was ordered back into service by the far-right security minister Itamar Ben-Gvir following the October 7 attacks in 2023. All areas within the facility, including cells, a small exercise yard, and meeting rooms for legal counsel, are situated underground, ensuring inmates live without any natural light. Official data obtained by PCATI indicates that while the prison was designed for a limited number of high-security inmates, holding 15 men when it closed in 1985, approximately 100 detainees have been incarcerated there in recent months. This comes despite a mid-October ceasefire agreement that saw Israel release 1,700 Palestinian detainees from Gaza held indefinitely without charge or trial, alongside 250 convicted prisoners. However, the sheer scale of detentions means that even after this mass release, at least 1,000 others reportedly remain under similar conditions. PCATI asserts that Palestinians from Gaza are still imprisoned under legally contested and violent wartime conditions that violate international humanitarian law and amount to torture. The organization specifically points to the 2 Rakefet detainees they represent as examples of this ongoing situation. Minister Ben-Gvir has publicly stated that Rakefet is being repurposed to hold Hamas elite fighters and Hezbollah special forces captured in Lebanon. However, the 2 men visited by PCATI lawyers in September were identified as a 34-year-old nurse detained while on duty at a hospital in December 2023, and a teenager apprehended in October 2024 at an Israeli checkpoint. The PCATI lawyer Janan Abdu emphasized that these individuals are civilians, with one being an 18-year-old food seller taken from a road. The Israeli Prison Service, IPS, did not respond to inquiries regarding the status and identities of other prisoners at Rakefet, a name meaning cyclamen flower in Hebrew. Classified Israeli data suggests a significant proportion of Palestinians captured in Gaza during the war were civilians, and rights groups have accused Israel of using living detainees from Gaza as bargaining chips, similar to its policy of holding Palestinian bodies. Tal Steiner, the executive director of PCATI, describes the conditions for Palestinians in Israeli prisons as horrific by intention, citing systemic violations of international law detailed by current and former detainees, as well as military whistleblowers. Rakefet, however, represents a unique form of abuse, Steiner notes, with prolonged confinement underground and without daylight having extreme implications for psychological and physical health, impacting circadian rhythms, sleep, and vitamin D production. Steiner, despite working as a human rights lawyer and visiting other prisons, was unaware of the Rakefet facility until Ben-Gvir reactivated it. Researching its history involved consulting old media archives and the memoir of a former IPS head, who had deemed 24/7 subterranean confinement too cruel and inhumane for anyone to endure. PCATI lawyers Abdu and Sajah Mishirki Baransi were granted a visit to Rakefet this summer. They were escorted by masked, heavily armed guards down dirty stairs into a room with insect remains on the floor and an unusable toilet. Surveillance cameras in the lawyers' meeting room violated the right to confidential discussion, and guards warned that conversations about detainees' families or the war would lead to the meeting's termination. Abdu expressed concern that if the lawyers' room was so demeaning, the prisoners' situation must be far worse. The detainees were brought in shackled and bent over, with guards forcing their heads to the ground. Mishirki Baransi reported that the 2 detainees had been at Rakefet for 9 months, with one asking, "Where am I and why am I here?" as he had not been told the prison's name. Israeli judges reportedly authorized their detention via brief video hearings without legal representation or access to evidence against them, stating they would be held until the war ends. The men described windowless, unventilated cells holding 3 to 4 detainees, often feeling breathless and choking. They reported regular physical abuse, including beatings, attacks by dogs with iron muzzles, and guards stepping on them, alongside denial of adequate medical care and starvation-level rations. Israel's High Court recently ruled that the state was depriving Palestinian prisoners of sufficient food. Their limited time outside cells, in a tiny underground enclosure, could be as little as 5 minutes every other day. Mattresses were removed early in the morning and returned late at night, leaving them on iron frames in otherwise empty cells. These conditions mirror images from Ben Gvir's publicized visit to the reopened facility, where he stated, "This is terrorists' natural place." Under the ground, his rhetoric on mistreatment of Palestinian detainees has been linked by former hostages to an escalation of abuse they suffered in captivity, including prolonged underground confinement, deprivation of food, isolation, violence, and psychological torture. Israel's intelligence services have warned that such treatment of Palestinian prisoners jeopardizes the country's broader security interests. Mishirki Baransi stated the detained nurse last saw daylight on January 21, after a year in various jails, including the SDE Timon Center. The nurse, a father of 3, has had no contact with his family. Lawyers can only share the name of the relative who authorized their representation as a small piece of personal information, a practice Mishirki Baransi described as offering a tiny thing to confirm a parent is alive. When the other detainee inquired about his pregnant wife's well-being, guards immediately terminated the conversation with threats. As the men were led away, the sound of an elevator suggested their cells were located even deeper underground. The teenager reportedly told Abdu, "You are the first person I have seen since my arrest," and his final plea was, "Please come see me again." The IPS issued a statement asserting that it operates in accordance with the law and under the supervision of official comptrollers and is not responsible for legal processes or arrest policies. The Justice Ministry deferred questions about Rakefet and its detainees to the Israeli military, which in turn directed inquiries to the IPS.